In the corner of a dark recording studio, an older and more reserved Eric Clapton sits, his eyes filled with remorse and memories. Everyone else outside keeps on believing the story. However, something cracks on the inside. He makes up his mind to reveal the truth at last. Not intentionally, but because keeping secrets is too much. He mentions Pattie Boyd, the stunning woman who became an international icon as a result of her appearances on album covers and in songs. On the other hand, the picture was an optical illusion. Clapton has recently come clean about a stunning and deeper truth, one that she has always preferred the world not to know. To preserve her honor, he kept quiet for a long time, repressing feelings of longing or remorse. Nevertheless, that is no longer the case. The woman who twirled around his every breakup and haunted his lyrics wasn't just a muse. She was more than that. A master of disguises, she was. The pain she caused wasn't poetic either. It was insufferable, merciless, and impossible to escape. His current story is not one of love. A reckoning is upon us. While filming A Hard Day's Night in 1964, Pattie Boyd entered George Harrison's life. Shy smiles, golden light, and swaying hair. That was her. She seemed otherworldly to George. She had legendary status among the Beatles. However, decay was taking hold within that fantastical story. Being the quiet wife wasn't something Pattie was happy to do. Men who lived on fire, art, and mayhem captivated her. The marriage became strained quite fast. As George delved further into spirituality and isolation, he became further and more apart. Abbey Road and the Maharishi retreats cast a shadow over Pattie, and she began to feel restless. Clapton arrived thereafter. While George was in India meditating, Clapton couldn't stop thinking about Pattie. He penned Layla as an impassioned scream. The song Bell-Bottom Blues was his way of pleading. What appeared to be desire, however, was frequently something more sinister. The thrill of the hunt became as addicting to Clapton as the heroin itself. He knew it would cost him friendships, respect, and maybe even his sanity, yet he pursued her mercilessly nevertheless. Leaving George wasn't merely a romantic choice for Pattie. In the realm of rock, there was a clap of thunder, but there was no redemption in the marriage to Clapton. They endured tumultuous years as a couple. Angry, inebriated, and shattered, Clapton was a wreck. Floundering was Pattie. She was uncertain if she had broken out of her previous cage or entered a new one. Long pauses screamed louder than guitars, and there were dramatic clashes and affairs. That, to me, is the most interesting thing about learning to play guitar. Rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and the blues on guitar. No record ever created has any heart. Clapton was just the beginning of Pattie's romantic history. Everywhere it went boom. Comparison of the initial and final states. Artists, musicians, and mayhem intertwined throughout her life. A Soho alleyway was a hive of rumors. Extramarital affairs with Rolling Stones guitarist Ron Wood. Late evenings spent in secrecy with renowned artists. The mysterious relationships she had with distressed photographers who claimed she shredded their life to shreds. She had a knack for attracting men who wore great masks and had troubled pasts. Men who were more legendary than real. Less shelter and more storm. Moreover, the disturbing reality? Like a mirror, she reflected their anarchy. She did more than watch as they burned. She danced in the flames and would even light matches on occasion. Sometimes, what started as adoration turned into animosity. In a dramatic shift, lovers became rivals. Individuals who were considered confidential ended up being used as collateral. Envy, complex power struggles, and hushed accusations of treachery sprang from previously established emotional bonds. Some even went so far as to say she was claiming land rather than only gathering hearts. As soon as one relationship ended, another would begin, causing a whirlwind of emotions and chaos. Those who ventured within her sphere of influence frequently emerged from it burned, confused about whether they had experienced love or something more sinister. For a long time, Clapton had kept this aspect of her life under wraps for reasons of modesty and respect. However, now that he has revealed the truth, he portrays her not as a romantic who was betrayed by her love, but as someone who utilized it to her advantage. Though not always with malice, there is always a risk. Even while she was gifted with inspiration, she could also strike fear into the hearts of her lovers, leaving them to wonder if she was ever truly theirs or if they were merely the next verse in her unfinished song. As early as the mid-1918s, Pattie's reputation as a model began to crumble. She had gone from being the innocent object of love songs to being the object of whispers and cautious looks. Word on the street was that there was emotional manipulation, squabbles broke out during fancy dinners, and tears were shed behind closed doors. In private, the once immortalized woman on vinyl was frequently erratic, a delightful whirlwind of disorder and charisma. At times, her laughter brightened a room, and she had a way of motivating artists to achieve new heights just by being in the room. However, there were instances when her emotions were frigid, and the span of quiet felt like a razor's edge, damaging relationships to a profound degree. As he became older, Clapton dropped hints about how much of an emotional toll she had on everyone in her circle, including himself. Effusive and merciless were two words that could describe her. According to some, she treated love like money, showering her fans with attention whenever it benefited her. As she transitioned from one man, one moment, and one persona to another, some thought she never completely understood the emotional mess she left behind. Not only was she the inspiration, but she also reflected the anxieties and doubts of the men who fawned over her. By doing so, she revealed their baser natures. Pattie Boyd became at once an angel and an enemy, a dream and a nightmare. In the rock universe, where every song conceals a memory and every memory bears a scar. For reasons that went well beyond her stunning good looks, she left an indelible impression on many. Pattie's problems extended beyond romantic relationships. Hidden from prying eyes, her private life was a minefield of emotions. There was a lot of strife in her family life, including dysfunctional relationships between siblings, a permanent rift with certain extended family members, and heated arguments about inheritance, memoirs, and who got to write their family story. Jenny, her younger sister, had a turbulent relationship due to the years of jealousy and comparison that followed her success as a model. At dinner tables, comments were whispered, interviews were passive-aggressive, and photo shootings were staged where neither model looked the other in the eye. Decades passed with repressed animosity. The air between them was like glass, clear and deadly, according to their friends. Even at times that were supposed to be a source of unity, family vacations, weddings, and charity events, the sisters would periodically reunite with champagne smiles before vanishing into separate automobiles and quiet seclusion. This pattern persisted for years. A lot of uncomfortable silences and cold interactions revolved around Pattie. Her aura was both captivating and divisive. Like a queen, she was embraced by some. No one else even looked at them. Reconciliation was not only difficult, but nearly impossible due to financial concerns, jealousy, legacy, and varying accounts of shared pain. In the rock orbit, she publicly battled with other women. Olivia Harrison, who was George's stable and reserved second wife, and Maureen Starkey, whose husband Ringo was intelligent, were later mentioned. Official accounts exclude details of certain instances because of how tense they were. Intense altercations in the backstage hallways and strategic seating arrangements during Beatles' family gatherings to maintain their distance. One occasion where Pattie's early departure was welcomed with apparent relief. Long, personal struggles with one's own identity and sense of value also occurred. Pattie often felt unnoticed by everyone around her, even though she was the inspiration for rock gods. To her closest friends, she revealed her deepest fear, that her legacy would be defined by the people she motivated rather than by her own merits. As a result of internalizing that pressure, I experienced depression spirals, weeks of solitude, and extended periods of not being seen. She spent a lot of time going through a roller coaster of emotions, from strutting down the red carpet in couture one day to hiding out in bed with the curtains pulled the next. She was a woman adored by everyone, yet she was in perpetual conflict with herself, according to those who knew her well. She seemed to be chasing an elusive perfection. Instead of a fairy tale, her life behind the scenes of nostalgic magazine covers was a battleground. Decades after his death, Eric Clapton speaks out, not in a memoir or interview, but with a voice quivering under the burden of all that he has kept silent. No, this is confrontation, not merely closure. Not only is he recalling, but he is also disclosing. Because every love song hid a scream under its melodic surface. There was a man falling apart, and a woman standing by his side in every beautiful song. Now Clapton reveals more than just sadness. The gradual loss of who he was in the company of someone he loved, drew terror from, and couldn't get away from is what he's experiencing. Pattie isn't someone he hates, but he also isn't protecting her anymore. Behind the glitz and elegance, there were mysteries, yet her beauty and charisma were universally acknowledged. Abuse of power by manipulation of emotions, patterns of icy detachment interspersed with outbursts of love. She had an irresistible charm that almost broke him. Her presence was more than just enticing. It was addictive. Even while they lay side by side, Clapton recalls the increasingly lonely mornings and the unseen strain. She had the ability to captivate him with a look and frighten him away with a whisper. Power, not love, was what it was. And he was so engrossed in her story that he failed to notice until it was far too late. He talks of the times he would pace the hotel floors, watch her disappear behind closed doors with no explanation, and worry what she would become next. Not to commemorate her, but to endure her, he took up writing. There was a restless night behind every beautiful song. An avalanche was lurking behind each photo of them smiling. It had recently ended or was going to start soon. His once igniting muse had eventually abandoned him, leaving him despondent and broken. Not only does Clapton's candor shock fans, but so does the revelation that the legendary figure they formerly held in high esteem as an inspiration for fairy tales is now exposed as something far more vulnerable and even deadly. A power that caused people to feel inspired, but also to be manipulated, confused, and emotionally devastated. The anarchy that Pattie Boyd caused is what makes her legendary, not her creations. After all these years, Clapton has finally removed the poetry, allowing the bare truth to resound more powerfully than the song itself.